Chileans, here's the thing. I think this happens in every country, but Chileans here is very common that they love Milei. They do love Milei, but they love Milei as long as he's in Argentina. If he was Chilean, he wouldn't get any votes or no repercussion so far as as I'm concerned, or compared to what he's doing in Argentina. So yeah, we're a different culture. We like Milei as long as he's in Argentina.
Buy my novel, Escape from the Village, from major booksellers online. Go to escapevillage.com. Subscribe to the Substack. Go to fountainheadforum.substack.com. Support the forum. Go to buymeacoffee.com/fountainheadforum. Thank you. Welcome to the Party Pal. This is Fountainhead Forum 205. I've brought back Italo Omegna, who is with the Libertarian Party in Chile. We're going to talk about quite a few things affecting South America right now. I think we'll talk a little bit about Javier Milei, the situation in Venezuela, and of course maybe the situation in Chile as well. No recent elections in Chile, but obviously I'm learning that South American politics definitely watch out for each other a lot. I guess, when you have the same language, it's easier for everybody to pay attention to everybody. So how are you, Italo?
Good, Chris. Thank you very much for a new invitation to your program. Very glad to be here.
Seems better now that I've been to Chile. And, Chile does seem like it's a little more, I don't know, just a little more optimistic than Buenos Aires. I realize, because of the Pinochet regime and privatizing things, you've got things going a little better there.
But, we're much modern. I mean, at least the best time in Argentina was in the early 20th century. Yep. So, the structures, the architecture was different. So here we have a lot of modern buildings and stuff like that. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, Santiago is interesting because while Buenos Aires is on the water, Santiago is more inland. So you don't really get to the beach at all. But, you can actually go a couple hours east and you are really in the mountains there. And there's some beautiful mountains. And, of course, I was there in winter, so that made it interesting to check out. But went on some very crooked roads. And I think I really got to see some of the natural beauty of South America, even though it was covered in snow.
Yeah. Yes, you were very lucky because we've been for like almost more than a decade in a drought. Like there was no much rain, so you couldn't see much snow in the mountains here in Santiago. So this has been a really, really good year because we were like in this sort of what's it called, like climate phenomenon that's called El Nino, and it just passed, and now it's back again. Like when I was a kid, I was used to watch to the mountains and see the snow and everything, and now and that was gone for like more than a decade, and this year we're back in it. So it was a very good year for you to come and get to see that beauty.
Yeah, it was beauty. It's one of those cities that definitely I wish I spent. You leave and you wish, boy, I didn't spend enough time here. Need to go back and see more of it. So, what's going on in Chile right now? I'd like to think that what's happened with Milei is kind of impacting everybody else to a certain extent. Are the socialists kind of running for governor, or at least they're going back and guarding themselves, or what are they doing? What's going on in Chile right now?
Well, it is affecting us in some way because there's a lot of people that is sort of as always really, but it's been kind of precipitate because of the Milei effect, the fact that most people are very disappointed about the political casta, right? Like the political groups, and the cast, the la casta, yes, and the political parties. So. In Chile, we have a very particular scenario because we have a very radical left. I mean, we do have a Marxist left, a real orthodox Marxist left, mixed now with a woke culture and all these progressive groups, movements. And in the other hand, you have no more than a social democrat opposition. So it's not really an opposition in the essence, but more in the grade of the changes that they want to make. So that has been helping out, or it's been forced, creating this disappointment atmosphere where people is actually voting for anything that doesn't belong to a political party. So any candidate that is not part of a political party but just in the list, um, it seems like kind of attractive to the Chilean voters, to the Chilean people. As a matter of fact, I think we have now like 7,000 candidates for the municipals that have that don't belong to any party. They're independent candidates. So yeah, it's a weird phenomenon. However, we still, I'd say, a few decades away from what's happening in Argentina in terms of a political change. I think Chile still got a lot to lose yet until the people finally realize that the problem are the politicians, and decide to vote for someone with a radical agenda.
But Chile has never went down quite the path that Venezuela or Argentina went down. I mean,
Yes,
it's
yes,
really,
we have.
well, I mean, inflation that bad, or
Yeah, yes, yes, with Allende before the coup with the Pinochet regime. Well,
yeah, I
before
mean,
that,
yeah, but, I mean, but that was a while ago with Allende. I mean, that was,
well, it was
you
in the
know,
70s.
yeah, I mean,
You
since
know,
since Pinochet. I mean,
yeah, but we were in the same path. I mean, we were the second uh, worst country in South America after Haiti. We
yeah,
have the biggest inflation in the region. We have the most poverty rates.
yeah,
We didn't have sorry kids malnutrition. We have the higher index in all these kind of things, and it was until the coup that we finally started to switch the path. But Chile,
yeah,
in his entire history before Pinochet, was always like a poor country. It wasn't never like a sort of like a leader in the region about development and progress. It was never that kind of country. This is the exception. This time it
yeah.
is.
Looking at the Chilean peso versus the dollar, I can go back to today. Today in 2019, it was about 700, and it's 935 now. So that's a loss, but not nearly as bad, say, as Argentina or some other countries over the last 5 years.
No, absolutely, absolutely not.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we have an independent or sort of like kind of independent central bank.
yeah,
So they've been doing a really serious work until they did a little reform in 2020, if I don't remember, if I don't misremember, with Piñera ahead. So they
yes,
switched. They did a little reform, constitutional reform about the central bank, and they allow him now to allow it to buy bonds in the secondary market, which wasn't allowed before. And since then,
yes.
we start to have a little bit higher inflation. But however, it's been a really conservative bank, and as a matter of fact, it's normally used as an example for the rest of the central banks in the world.
Yes, Jose Pineda, one of the architects of the privatization of the Social Security system. He's probably one of the greatest, maybe one of the greatest economists of all time in South America as far as what he's accomplished. Although
Yeah.
Milei may give him a run for his money, but
Well,
he's got,
this one was his brother because his brother was president,
yeah,
which is Sebastián Piñera. So he's the older brother. Jose Piñera is the older brother.
yeah. And this was during Pinochet, but it's just amazing, yeah, what they've accomplished. I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, so really Chile. I mean, I see Chile. It seems like it's doing very well. Santiago seemed like it was just doing better than Buenos Aires in general, although I didn't see all of Santiago. And
Yeah,
Santiago is not quite as large as Buenos Aires, but but and of course I only saw Santiago, but and I saw some of the beautiful mountains. But yeah, Chile is definitely worth a visit. It's
yeah.
it's
The south of Chile is beautiful, and it's
yeah,
also kind of modern and is sort of safe. Not all parts, because we have a humongous terrorist problem in the south, in a macrozona sur, which is not the very south, but it's in the south. But far away from it, you have beautiful landscapes and good food and very warm people there. So yeah, I'm definitely um, recommend people to visit the south of Chile. It's a beautiful
you
place to
said
go.
you had terrorists. You have terrorists in the south.
Yeah, humongous problem in Chile, in the south, in La Araucanía, which is a region a few regions up under Santiago. So you have this indigenous movement, which have taken completely control of the south, of a big part of the south,
Oh,
reclaiming lands and stuff. And as a matter of fact, I think there's been more than a year since La Araucanía is under exception. How is it called in English? You know, when the government say this is an exception
oh,
zone.
Concepcion, did you say? Or
No, exception zone, like emergency zone. Like you have a time schedules. I mean, you need to get
oh
home
yeah,
after certain hours, and you know, and you have the militaries around and the army around. That's because it's absolutely taken by the terrorists.
oh yeah. What was it? Where was this exactly? You said
La Araucanía.
La Ucania.
Yeah, so that is where in the narrative, in the media, they say we have a Mapuche conflict, which is not true because most people, most of Mapuches that live in the La Araucanía, and I mean most, like vast majority, 70, 80% vote for the right wing
Oh,
part. And they actually have nothing to do with this Mapuche conflict. As a matter of fact, they are
oh yes, the
victims.
Mapuche. Okay, yes, Mapuche. Yeah,
So they are victims of them. They kind of hostage of this sort of Mapuches. We are not really Mapuches because a lot of the leaders have even German last names, and it's all a Marxist rhetoric. If you listen to their to their demandments and the way how they speak, they pretty much talk about uh, all the Marxist principles uh, uh, in the essence. I mean, it's they're declared Marxist. So it's most
yes,
of a political conflict.
yeah. There's definitely still some so there's still some tribes in Chile that are people who were there before the Europeans came.
Mm.
So there's still somewhat of a divide there. I mean, you know, I think we could say that probably some of the indigenous people do have some legitimate grievances because you came in and took our land, because you had guns and we didn't. I mean, I don't know all the history, but that seems to be the case. Sometimes here up in North America, but it still seems to be playing itself out in South America where it's
Well, I cannot disagree with that kind of claims because I mean it's been more than 500 years, and it's they absolutely integrated into the society. It's not like they're a different, they have different way of living or anything. No, they're just normal Chileans like everyone else. Like if you go along Chile, you can see it's different to Peru. Let's say in Peru you go and you can say that you can see the indigenous people. Here in Chile you can't. We are pretty
yeah,
mixed up. We are really mixed our culture. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. Peru is still very divided.
Hmm.
In Peru, you got the languages. I mean, and you've got the indigenous of the Incas and the descendants of the Incas, and then you got the people in the rainforest who are completely different from them. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very interesting situation. Of course, people don't realize, the the most common language in South America is Spanish. The second most common language in South America is Portuguese because of Brazil. The
Hmm.
third most common language in South America is Quechua,
Yes, exactly.
which was the language, and they debate whether or not it's a language or a language family, but that was the language of the Incas.
Yes.
I think still about 8 million people speak Quechua or form of Quechua. Although that's more Peru than but obviously
So you
there's
see, there's a huge difference to the Chilean case, and yeah, here nobody speaks Mapudungun, which is the language of Mapuches. Only a
yeah
very few, not even the leaders of the movement speak Mapudungun. They only know a few words. Like we just have a convention not long ago, a few years ago in 2020, they tried to change the constitutional system here in Chile, and the representatives
yeah
of the indigenous people, which weren't even voted by the same indigenous, but the indigenous speak Mapudungun. They speak it very roughly, and
yes
people that are experts about that language, they were like, these people doesn't even speak
yeah.
Mapudungun.
It seems like down there the communism is more of a selling point with some of the indigenous people and the really poor people. and the people in the cities and the richer people are more capitalist. Whereas in North America, it's completely reversed. It's the people in the cities and who want to be socialists, and it's more the country people, the farmers, the small town people who actually want to be more, at least, be less
Well,
socialist. It's very interesting. Although,
Chris, here is the same. It's the same. This the only exception, as I said, is a minuscule, a little group in La Araucanía, which is taken by these people, but they are they're a minority. Most of the people that live in La Araucanía are right wing. They like free market. They want, a rule of law. Also in the south, as a matter of fact, here in Chile, in Santiago, is where you have more of the socialists. All the woke culture is here, especially among the rich groups in the city.
yes,
Mm.
it's partially because also socialism is more attracted to what I would call the managerial class, or that class of people who just go to meetings and push papers and don't really actually do productive things. You know, and every country has those. But then, obviously, you got the college professors down there. So, so that's where Chile is right now. Not really changed much. What do Chileans think about what's been going on in Venezuela right now? Is
So
I think Boric is actually telling Maduro to recognize the election, or I don't know how that's working out. What's been going on with that?
yeah, well, that's been crazy because crazy in a very like weird way because here in Chile you have Boric as a president and he governs together with the Communist Party. As a matter of fact, Boric and all that group of new politicians, new generation of politicians, are a
Yep.
product of the Communist Party intervention in schools, in universities. So they form these kids, and they never work in the private sector. They always been in the public system, and they're not even poor. They're all rich. They all come from very wealthy families, and they start to be part or lead these woke movements in universities to end up having this political career and end up in the presidency. So they very admire the Communist Party, and they govern together. As I say, they have the very important ministries are run by communist members, and they are one of the main allies of Venezuelan regime, Maduro's regime. So here is a very strategic thing that he's doing because he cannot support Maduro publicly. That'll be a devastated for his that'll be devastated for his government because everyone's watching what's happening over there. However, the Communist Party remains quiet. Not even quiet. They support Maduro openly. So what he's doing, Boric, is like creating this tension among the Communist Party and the rest of the left here in the country. But the Communist Party still knows that they need to show this democratical sort of disguise for them not to be, in the eye of the polemic. However, it's not working much, and yeah, Boric, besides he's been also saying, as you said, that he doesn't recognize Maduro as the winner. He neither recognize Gonzalez as the winner. So he's like right in the middle, but he didn't took any action about it. I mean, Venezuela was the one that actually kicked out our diplomatic representatives over there. So our embassy got closed by Venezuela, not the president of Chile, who said we don't want to, we don't want nothing to do with you guys. This is not fair. This is not transparency. We cannot trust you, so we're gonna take the embassy to not support you. No, it was Venezuelan regime who kicked out our diplomacy team from Venezuela and retire his ambassador here in Chile. So you get to see this contradiction, these political contradictions. I mean, you say something, but you don't do the other. You don't follow with the action that correspond to what you're saying. So we all know what he thinks. We all know he actually adores Chavez. He likes Castro. He is a follower of these regimes. It's just that the thing is so obvious, it's so evident what is happening over there that you cannot support that and expect not to have any political, effect, especially when he's so low in the polls.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's good to know he's not popular. It is interesting though too because Chile has actually had a large history of student protests, and was somehow in a and we're talking college students or maybe teenagers and early 20 somethings. It's very interesting that somehow Milei managed to get this demographic behind him. Why is it still? Why do we still see this happening? That all so many of these under 30 people are voting for Milei in Argentina, but the under 30s are still voting for going after the or still supporting the communists and the socialists in the other countries.
Mm.
What is Milei doing? I mean,
Well, I believe there's many elements that participate in this situation, in this context. In one hand, you have a very different culture. Argentina's culture is very different to the rest of the South America. I mean, what you got in Argentina, you barely have like radical left. What you have as radical left is called Del Caño and Miriam Bregman, which they only have three
yeah.
percent of the votes.
Well,
But
yeah,
here,
Miriam Bregman. But Argentina also gave us Che for goodness sakes. I
yeah,
mean,
I know, but
I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah,
I agree. I agree. I mean, they give, but it's one people, it's one person. This is two
yeah,
person, and they only get three votes of the in the elections. 3% of the vote. Sorry. Here in Chile, we get a president that is as radical as them. And he got 54% of the votes. So there's a big cultural difference that is part of the essence of Argentinians' reality. What I do think that is the big difference, and this is very speculative because it's really hard to demonstrate, but to me, is that Argentinian people have much love for themselves than we do have in Chile. What I mean by this, here in Chile, you'll find that every single sector is very, you have a lot of, what is it called, resentment and
yes,
envy. So you get a very envy society where the class struggle rhetoric is very deep in our culture. I mean, if you came here to Santiago, you probably came to the very nice neighborhoods, but you cannot see much of the bad neighborhoods in the good neighborhoods, which is different to Argentina. You get all mixed up. So
yes,
the entire metropolis is absolutely divided, and people deny who they are. So people, they actually have a, not rich, but they do well off. They say,
yes,
no, no, I'm not rich, I'm part of the people. And the people say, no, no, I want to be rich. So you have this stroll, this deny about your own identity, which is a reflection of the rhetoric of the class struggle that calls very deep in our country. Now in Argentina, you don't have that. In Argentina, one guy that could live in the worst ghetto, in the worst misery that you could imagine, can go and play a soccer match together with someone that comes from a very wealthy family, and they both believe they are Messi. They both believe they are the best players in the world. And after the match, they both go and play and eat and share a barbecue together. That
yes,
never happens here in Chile. So there's much more divided country, and it's a reflection of this. In Argentina, you don't have this radical left that you get here. For example, I studied 1 year in college in Argentina. I was, a liberal. However, I never got hit. I never got any aggression from my classmates or anything like that. Here in Chile, you do. If you say something like "I vote for the right wing," you're gonna get completely segregated from the university.
oh
Your
wow,
schoolmates they're gonna try to hurt you very badly. There's a lot of faces here in Chile.
yeah,
So that's the big difference to me. Here in Chile, you get, well, Boric come from that protest, those students' protests
yeah,
that you mentioned, and it's just the Marxist germ virus right into our our school system, our educational system. However, in Argentina, you don't get that much, and also have this weird hypothetical thesis where I believe that also is because a lot of kids in Argentina uh, don't finish school, and because when you go to school there, you don't get taught more much. So
yeah,
they don't deform you that much, so kids kind of grow working and and inventing and trying to figure out what to do with their life, They don't come into this school system where they tell you everything about the truth. This is mathematics, this is biology, this is this, and this is what you need to believe. It's not like that. So I believe you have much more of a self-love society, a self-loving society with a lot of
Yeah.
rebellion.
Yeah, well, I will point out I've generally tried to avoid the bad neighborhoods in South America. I know I've probably I do remember having a cab ride in Lima once, and we were going to look for some tourist attraction, and then the cab driver said Pelagroso, and we kind of looked around, and I thought, nah, let's go somewhere else. Don't drop me off here. So and of course, in Lima is telling me, said, don't roll your window down and have your cell phone out. Keep your window up.
Well, at least here in Santiago, it's very easy to avoid those neighborhoods. In Argentina, you don't. You might be in a really nice neighborhood, and suddenly you'll see Villa 31 right there. And you're like, oh my God, what is this? What is doing this here? It's very mixed up. Here in Chile, it's not. It's absolutely divided.
Yeah, I think probably the most dangerous city I've been in, or areas I've been in, probably in Acapulco in Mexico.
Oh, but, yeah, absolutely.
Which is unfortunate because Acapulco really is an absolutely beautiful place if you just look at how the bay and all that stuff. I mean, the nature, but it's just its star has fallen because of the cartel. It's being a crossroads of cartels. But anyway, so that's very interesting that you have that different culture because both these countries were settled by Spanish, although apparently Argentina attracted a lot more European immigration. And maybe it's often been said that Argentina is the most European country in South America.
Mm.
And yes. From what I've heard also that a lot of the Argentines, as they leave, they actually go to Europe and don't go to other South American countries.
Yes, that's I don't know about that, to be honest, because what it was very amusing to me over there is that here in Chile, most of people, when they think of traveling, especially young kids, they think of Europe mostly, or mostly Europe, or maybe some more exotic places like Southeast Asia or something. But in Argentina was the first time that I met a lot of kids from school and stuff like that their dream was to go to New York. And I'm like, how come you guys want to go to New York? You love socialists, don't you? I mean, you hear you have social system and all this stuff,
Yeah. Also, you told me that there are about, a country of about 20 million people. You've absorbed about 800,000 refugees from Venezuela. Is that correct? I mean, that's a pretty big number considering your population. I mean, that's effectively 4%. I mean, that's a lot of people, but it seems like they're mixing in. And what are they doing? Are they actually going out? And I know in Argentina, they've definitely become part of Milei's support group. In fact, there was a video out there I saw of Milei actually holding up the Venezuelan flag because he, as a show of thanks to them. Are they supporting the capitalists in Chile as well, or?
Well, what we need to understand, I believe, is that when countries go the way that they go with Venezuela, it's not because their people actually have this clarity about what system works better. Most of the Venezuelans that leave Venezuela, they just know they don't like Maduro, but they don't know why their country failed, So a lot of Venezuelans that are here, they are not necessarily right wing, but they definitely don't like the left wing the speech because it remembers them what's happening in Venezuela. I mean, what they lived, but they don't really know why. So here in Chile, you're having a big issue with insecurity because a lot of the Venezuelans, not just Venezuelans, also Colombian, from Haiti, and Bolivians, especially, are illegal immigrants, and the insecurity rates are being, they're explosive. They're just increased so badly in such a short term that you creating a very complex scenario right now here in Chile, where economically we're not getting better since 2014. The country is not growing. You get a big, huge group of immigrants that come here to Chile. a lot of them to work fairly, but there's also a lot of them that we start to see crimes that we never seen before, like kidnapping people, like murdering with guns, and and hitmen services, an explosion in drug trafficking, and all these things are strange for us because we didn't have them not long ago. So it's very interesting what's happening right now in that case, in that sense, because there's a huge reaction by the Chilean people, in terms of, uh, in some cases, even xenophobic, which is dangerous. And you get this big political fight between the left wing that allow them to enter the country, but also you getting also the right wing allow them to entry, and now you're getting this reaction from nationalist groups. Yeah, I'm very concerned about that. I think it's the main topic right now here in Chilean news. I mean, what's happening with the
Yeah.
immigration and the insecurity.
Do you think Milei is having any impact in Chile right now? I mean, are people talking about him? Or is his book out in bookstores? I mean,
Yes, it is. I mean, Nicolas Marquez, who wrote his biography, is a friend of mine. Uh, he was not long ago, a few weeks ago, maybe 1 week ago, here presenting that book. It was all right because, I mean, Chileans, here's the thing. I think this happens in every country, but Chileans here is very common that they love Milei. They do love Milei, but they love Milei as long as he's in Argentina. If he was Chilean, he wouldn't get any votes or no repercussion, so far as as I'm concerned, or compared to what he's doing in Argentina. So yeah, we're a different culture. We like Milei as long as he's in Argentina.
so it's like it's easier for them to like Milei if he's further apart, not affecting you directly. So
Yeah, yeah. That is true. So even in the right wing parties, you can see some people, these new independent people, that kind of show up, that start to repeat what Milei says in their speeches. However, they are not really well intellectually formed, so they actually don't understand what they're saying. And at the time when they need to vote in the Congress or take any political decision, they go immediately straight away into interventionism and collectivism reactions. So yeah, collectivist reactions. Sorry.
yeah. So what exactly have you noticed? I mean, are you did say you spent a lot of time. You did some school in Argentina. Do you get back there that much? I mean, what do you think so far of what you've seen over the last 8 months?
In Argentina,
Yeah.
well, it's been a huge change. I mean, I was in the first votation, in the second votation, the second round, and on the election and the assumption of Milei. So I was there in the close group. And I love Argentina. It's my favorite country in the world, for some weird reason. But I just go around walking and talk with my friends in school, and talk with people, and I realized that they have like this mindset. What they say, we know this is gonna get bad, but it's necessary for it to get better. Now, if it doesn't get better, look, we anyways want to try something different. So we want to try Millet. So he still got this credit. And if you look at the polls, he still got a humongous approbation. Uh, no matter how chaotic is being the economic reality, because of everything, not because of him, but because of the heresy that he received from the disastrous Keynesian political regimes that they had before, presidencies. So people are kind of in this mindset where they're willing to still, hold on and see what's going on. And now they're seeing some results because inflation is going down, which is something that didn't happen in at least the last 20 years in Argentina.
Yes.
Incredible for them. So it's kind of all right. We're losing some jobs, but inflation is going down. And he told us this was going to happen. So it's still happening what he says is going to happen. So if he says, and we keep on this, and we, follow his trajectory, and we say, okay, he's being kind of this Nostradamus where he say A is going to happen and A happens, then all right, maybe And if he's saying that we're gonna get better in this amount of time, we need to at least wait this amount of time. Like we owe it to him, and we owe it to ourselves. So far, it's a huge change. It's a huge change. People are committed to the changes, to these policies, and so far, he haven't lost much support from the people, which is something incredible.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So I mean, that's good to know. I mean, uh, so what else do you think's how do you think this might be impacting some of the other countries in South America? I don't know. Your say your neighbor Bolivia or your neighbor Peru. I mean,
Well, I believe there's these two things that are happening that are very important for the region. One of them is Milei, of course. The success of Milei is going to be an example. It's going to lead the example for the rest of the countries, and you can see it in the youth, especially where you see in more and more groups and bigger groups. I mean, of young people. They are repeating what Milei is saying. They think is cool, is attractive to them, and they're reading the books, and they're kind of this, creating this junior generation in the future. And the second thing that's very important to happen is, or I think it will have a huge impact in the region, is if Maduro falls. If he falls, this is gonna alter the political scenario in the region humongously. I mean, Maduro is not Venezuela. It's not just Venezuela. Venezuela is the center of finances that all the radical left in South America receive. So if he falls, there's gonna happen a humongous reconfiguration of the political scenario, political context here in South America. Because Lula gets money from Maduro, Petro receives money from Maduro, the subversive groups receive money from Maduro, the Communist parties in
yes,
Chile receive money from Maduro. So it's really important that he
yes,
fails.
yes. You said yeah, Petro in Colombia. Do you think also that there might be a connection to Putin here, something like that? That's what I sometimes hear.
Putin was one of the first countries in support Maduro and recognize
Yeah.
his election, together with China, Syria, Iran, Nicaragua, Bolivia, um, Mexico. So, and also there's information that is running around saying that Putin is actually sending some help to Maduro to help him to control everything that's happening in the country, because the truth is that all these socialist countries, Cuba, Venezuela, their army are not more than a police army. I mean, they wouldn't survive anywhere with any other kind of serious country in South America, because they do not have weapons. They have weapons compared to the civils, but not compared to another army. They have nothing. They're like a parodic of an army. They're only created to repress the people in Venezuela. So I hear Maduro, Putin. There's some information saying that Putin actually is sending help to Maduro. Well, of course, with Cuba, Cuba is there all the time. All the intelligence in Venezuela was formed by Cuban intelligence. So and yeah, there's a connection there, no doubt about it.
Yes, Castro started all this stuff back in the 70s. It's really been a poison. And of course, there's no language barrier, so it's just you can interfere, stick his nose into all these countries' business. It's definitely an issue. You know, has Milei made it over to Chile since he got elected, or not?
Well, it was here, I think, 3 days ago. He was here in Chile.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
So he came here just for the day, for a few hours,
yeah,
in a private meeting. He actually didn't meet with Boric. He just came
yeah,
straight into a hotel to for a reunion with the gas providers here in Chile,
yeah,
because he wants to open back the market for gas export. That we used to have a very good relation with Argentina. They used to provide us gas here in Chile, natural gas, but Nestor Kirchner in his time didn't respect the contracts,
yeah.
so all that got destroyed, and now Milei is trying to open back the market.
Well, one thing that should be very interesting is that while he hasn't done it yet, Milei does plan to get rid of a lot of these export taxes. I mean, Argentina is one of the very few countries that actually taxes you to, puts a tax on you when you want to send stuff out of the country.
Hmm.
So if these export taxes go away, I think you'll see Chile and obviously the other neighbors just getting flooded with lots of stuff. I mean, you might get gas. You'll probably get a whole lot more beef, a lot
Hmm.
more food. Maybe and also I know there's also a competition for copper too. I mean, they might start mining more copper. I mean, that's
Yeah, I mean, the minority market
yeah,
industry
yeah,
is right now investing in Argentina. They prefer to invest in Argentina than in Chile. We do not have any investment right now. For a few years, we haven't received anything. They all run away. They destroy our country. I mean, we were a very like appealing country to invest. We are a very attractive country to do business, and now we don't. We just keep falling on the liberty ranking. It's incredible. I mean, they have destroyed everything that we hereby uh, sorry, from Chicago Boys design. They have destroyed everything in these 40 years of democracy. They can do a few changes in the first years, but as soon as they could have a little bit more power, they destroyed everything. They done a tax reform that was horrible for our economy, for growth. They destroy growth. They do it an educational reform that destroy our public school system. Now our best schools, they were public schools, state schools, where you get a lot of people that were future presidents coming out of them. Now they don't even have classes. They have almost every week or at least every month the kids taking over the school, and the kids and throw molotov to the police, molotov bombs to the police, the kids. It's insane. They destroyed everything that was good in this country.
oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I don't know how what kind of stuff do you all ship to Argentina? I mean, as
Well,
far as
so,
what comes out of Chile and goes to Argentina.
well, avocado. We sent a lot of avocado, as I know.
Yes, avocados.
Yeah, for what I know, well, exchanging fruits and stuff like that. I think
Yes,
meat. We also receive a lot of meat from Argentina. But as you say, like Argentina has their own industry because they have this policy of taxing imports and exports crazy. And,
yes,
uh, and if you go to Argentina, well, and you speak with Argentinians, you can see that most of, for example, refrigerators and electrodomestics that you get in the house, they're all national industry. Because
yeah,
if you get something that is built outside of Argentina or produced outside of Argentina, is because you must have, well, you be really well off because it's very expensive. I mean,
very expensive. Yeah,
like the
yeah,
most that you're gonna see is iPhone, and the rest is all national industry.
yes. It's funny. Speaking of, it seems like Chile also does a lot of trading with Mexico. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure, but probably we do.
Yes. Because what I noticed in Santiago, it looks like, they've already taken over Mexico, but I think maybe Chile is going to be the next country in Oxo's plan for world domination.
Yeah, we do have Oxford here. Yeah, and
Well,
it's been growing really quickly.
you go to Mexico, you can't walk a. You're lucky if you could walk a kilometer without seeing one. I mean, so they've
Yes.
already, that'd be your little
In
convenience
Australia, I
store.
remember when I live in Australia, they have 7-Eleven. I don't know if you got that in the States,
Oh
but
yeah.
seven.
Oh, you've been to Australia, really? When you were in Australia?
Oh, I live in Australia almost for 5 years. I lived there for 9 months in 2011, 10 months. And then I lived since 2015,
Yes.
I think, for like 4 years straight in Melbourne.
Oh, in Melbourne, I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's wild. You've certainly been around. You don't look that old. What's really interesting. So you've
Yes. Well,
not that
I
long.
left I left my house when I was 16, so
Oh
I started
wow.
traveling since then. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also that is the one flight from South America that goes across the Pacific is the flight
Yes.
from Santiago. I believe it goes to Sydney. If you're flying back to Australia or flying to Asia, that's probably the best way to go. It's a
Yeah, the flight goes straight from Santiago to Auckland in New Zealand, and then you go to Melbourne straight or to Sydney. I think it changed after the pandemic
okay.
though, because a lot of
Oh,
the routes, the flight
yeah,
routes, were like switch up because it wasn't profitable because of pandemic.
yeah. How long is that flight?
Well, I remember it took me like 23 hours, but I think I cannot remember how long did I have to stay in Auckland's airport.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I think the stop
That's
might
really
be
what I meant. How long was just the one takeoff to
yeah, I think
land?
it was. I think among 14 and 16 hours flight, like
Yeah,
straight flight.
I've been on long flights, but that might be because one thing you realize too, though, is South America is so much further east than North America.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
you're actually closer to the equator down there. And the thing is, too, you don't really have a lot of places where you can go if you get in trouble. You're going over water, and it's
yes, yes, absolutely.
you've really got to make sure you got a full tank of gas and got plenty of. One thing, there are some theories I've heard that some people say that the indigenous of South America actually were people that gradually crossed the ocean. Whereas some other theories, it's people who went across, North America, from Russia to Alaska and then came down through the Americas. What do you think about that?
Yes, yes, I did. So yes, I heard some of the theories. So I think the most plausible one, for what I remember, I was actually in a lecture like
Yeah,
2 days ago about this. Um, is that yeah? Well, actually, our indigenous here in South America, for what I know, come from Asia. Most of
yeah,
them. They come from Asia, and well, then you go to against to the Mapuche conflict. I mean, they got first here, and then we got here. But well, they got here, and there were other indigenous before,
well,
So yeah, you
was it people who came, like from Eastern Russia to Alaska and then came down from north to south? Or was it people who possibly migrated across the ocean, like island to island? I mean,
yes,
that's what I've been wondering. It's obviously it's a very long trip, but it's certainly something that is kind of fascinating.
it
You
is
know,
fascinating. It is very interesting because we're used to traveling cars and flights and modern ships, but long ago. I mean, I believe that the most closer thing that you get to that is or experience might be
yeah,
in Southeast Asia. In the case here in Chile, from the Cubans that take a vote to United States. And
yeah. What's the second best after Santiago, which is the capital and definitely the largest city? What's another great city down there?
so big city. We have a sort of big city, right? You get. I believe the biggest one after Santiago might be Viña del Mar, which is an hour away from it, from Santiago, or Concepcion, which is in the
Concepcion,
south.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, also I think also Valparaiso or
Yeah, Viña and Valparaiso are together. So there are cities that is all in the coast, and
Viña del Mar, yeah.
you get Reñaca, Viña del Mar, followed by Viña del Mar, and followed by Valparaiso. But I mean, they're like together.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
different
there's
cities,
places to
but
go
they're,
to.
they're all together.
Just think about places to go to. If you really want to see the country, you might want to get to some of the smaller cities. And some of these towns, of course, are on the coast, which Santiago is not. What actually made them settle Santiago? What started there?
Well, the Spaniards got here first. They
Was
so
it
they
was it a fort? Was there a lot of resources there? I mean, what made them say we're going to put a city here?
Well, that's crazy. That's yeah, yeah. That's a very good question. I mean, for what I know, the legend says that when the Spanish were in Peru and got the Incas under their
Yeah,
control, some of the Incas said, "Look, under going to south, you're gonna find a lot of gold. There's a lot of gold over there. You need to go that way." So Pedro de Valdivia took the quest and came down through the Cordillera until he got to Santiago, and in Santiago, I believe he met the first Mapuches, or very close to the first Mapuches. Also, Santiago is a valley, so might be attractive because of that. You got a river,
yeah.
you have like everything you need in case you want to settle down. You have water, some fruits and stuff, and Yeah, so they started here, and it's very well connected with the indigenous people. They realized there was no gold here. Also, there was everything was a trick. But yeah, they end up, settling here. I don't know. That's not much detail that I know about that, to be honest.
Yeah, well, Lima, of course, is on the coast and on the water, but Santiago is definitely not. So it's kind of
Well,
funny too. You have some of these really high capitals in South America. You have Quito, you have Bogota, you have La Paz. They're very high cities. I mean, yeah,
Well, what you get in common with those cities is that you have indigenous settlements before the Spanish people. Here you didn't have any, so I bet you better choose a place after this long trip, this long quest, a place where you have a river, so you have water, and also you're surrounded by mountains, so you didn't want to,
yeah,
cross another mountain again, which is the coast cordillera, and better stay here, and then you realize you can get to Valparaiso. All
yeah,
right, you get the port there, and it's yeah. I believe that might be the logic behind it.
yeah. One thing I do think interesting. I wonder if maybe Milei might actually. It's funny studying, looking. Apparently, Marxism might have died if not for the Bolshevik Revolution. I wonder if Milei could actually have this kind of impact on academia, and they might actually, decide, oh, we're going to be for free markets. I mean, that would be amazing if they did. Although I'm not
We
always
need to cross
impressed.
fingers for that. We need to cross
Yeah,
fingers for that, because I know, I'm very sad. This is something that, is not very popular to say, but I know a lot of the academics, libertarian academics that are in Argentina, that are very well known people, and very, very smart people, very, 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 very formed in libertarian ideas. However, there's a few of them that I admire personally, but they, since day one, being opposite to Millet. I do not know why. If it's because of envy, because they actually see some intellectual points that they don't like. I know there's some of them that don't like the form, the way how Millet says things, and he's kind of, this messy and sort of aggressive way to express
yeah,
himself. But I think it's very, very
yeah,
sad for them, because I believe we're living in a time that is historically weird. I mean, it's not common to have a president with the ideas that Milei says in his speeches. So you need to
yes,
support that. You need to go on it. You know how it works. You need to spread the ideas. This is the time to be together, not to start to, divide and stuff like that. I actually have a question for you, Chris. I don't know if I can ask you a question, even though the
yeah,
answer is
sure,
yes.
yeah. Go ahead.
So, what has been the impact of Millet in United States? What have you seen? What is
Uh,
your sensation?
I would say I don't think there's been a whole lot here. I mean, Americans really don't pay that much attention to politics outside the U.S. I mean,
Mm,
I've certainly gotten people tuning in, looking at what I'm doing. He spoke, in the U.S. on one occasion. I don't know. There might be a little more confidence because of him, but really, Americans don't look outside that much.
mm.
And if they do look outside, they either look to Canada or they look to England. They don't really look to countries where, because one thing you got to realize, most Americans are monolingual.
Mm.
They don't speak. Most Americans don't have a second language, and would never even consider getting one. So that kind of limits what they can look into.
So what about, for example, Elon Musk, that I know there's been
Yeah, yeah,
so
he's been
popular.
meeting with Elon, and I do think Milei is having an impact among Spanish speaking Americans, which
Mm,
is a lot of them. Uh,
great.
yeah, so
That is great. And what
it's
about the
interesting.
Libertarian Party? I know I'm in a few groups, alliance with the different libertarian parties in the world, and one of them is the United
Uh,
States Libertarian Party. But we haven't chat much about it. What about that? What do you think is the latest
it's had
impact?
very little impact on the Libertarian Party here. The Libertarian Party is not in a good place right now. I don't know. I don't really know what. I don't know if Milei would have anything to do with the Libertarian Party if he was here. I mean, it's
Mm.
the system is so rigged in favor of the two parties. It's very hard to figure out what would happen here. I do think I'm hoping that this can make a difference worldwide. Sometimes things go slowly, sometimes they go fast. one of
Yeah.
those very interesting times when things have gone fast, and I think we have other problems here that aren't necessarily economical. We've got a lot of the culture is definitely hurting in a lot of ways.
Mm. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm very worried about that also because, well, Axel Kaiser, which is a very like sort of a role model for us, like
Yes,
example, is a leader here in the libertarian movement, and
yeah,
well, he
Axel's a
does.
great guy. Yeah,
Yeah, he does have this book that is called The New Inquisition, where he get all these examples, and also we read about it, right? Like the examples in how the woke culture and the Marxist ideas start to permeate the universities
yes.
in the United States.
Well, yeah. Well, as you and you pointed out too, I think one of the problems is I think Milei has realized that he's actually went out and went directly to the people and turned the capitalist movement into a populist movement, as opposed to a lot of the other academics said we've got to do a march through the institutions. American libertarians were thinking that back in the 50s and 60s. And I think by now we can say that the attempt to take over the colleges has completely failed because the colleges in America have gotten a whole lot worse. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't know if you're ever going to, have a successful liberty movement without going out and appealing to the masses. And Milei knows how to talk to both of those people. He can go to some dinner party with a bunch of PhDs and talk about marginal utility theory or some other
Yes.
or opportunity costs and use all the same big words that they use. But then he can go outside and talk to people on the street and use simple 2 and 3 syllable words that they all know and
It's
go into all
amazing. It's
discussions
amazing. I
that
mean,
they can
that's
understand.
incredible.
And he
Yes.
can explain to them why free markets benefit them.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's incredible. I mean, that's one of the things that Millet has done. That's why I say it's a very like exceptional time,
Yes,
exceptional moment for our times. I mean, he's a guy
yes,
that, as you said, he can talk with the smartest people or with the all academic representatives in the world in their language, and also he can he understands the communication, the importance of communication, and the
yes,
importance. He understands this. This is, I think, is the key of it. He understands the media is not gonna be with him, so
yeah,
he knows very well the most important part of his government, of his mandate, is to get a very good communicational strategy with the people. Explain it in simple, be as much as transparency as he can, and just be informing them about everything is happening all the time to compete with the media, with the world media, and that's a very, I mean, that's an amazing thing because I never seen a president that does
yes.
that, you know.
And you brought up some of the academics who don't like him. I mean, the first one that comes to my mind, of course, is Antonella. Uh,
Oh yes.
yeah, Antonella Martin. I tell you what, I would love to have Antonella on here because I think Antonella could make some reasonable arguments for why she thinks there could be problems here, but I don't know. She blocked me on Twitter everywhere last August. So we'll just wait and see.
Yeah, well, you get
Well, you,
Antonella had a problem before, even with Agustin Laje, which is one of the main intellectuals there is around Millet, which is a great intellectual. I know him; he's an stupendous guy, and yeah, they have a lot of issue because, well, debates and stuff like that. To be honest, I'm not a follower of Antonella or Gloria Alvarez or this kind of
yeah,
uh, sort of. I believe the main problem here is moral. You know,
yes,
is that they destroy our capacity, or they try to supreme our capacity to difference between what
yes,
is good and what is bad, and I believe that's the main purpose of woke culture. And when they go along with them, I believe they don't understand the essence of the issue, of the discussion.
yes. Yeah, well, I also because Antonella has a very objectivist background, there's very much this attitude of you have to fight this way. I seem to remember reading somewhere she even had disagreements with Maria Corina Machado, and some people are just like saying, "Look, we can't fight right now. We have to get Maduro out of here. There's
Exactly.
get rid of Maduro, and then we'll argue later." It's
Well,
uh, you know,
that's wisdom, you know. You need to be prudent. You need to know when you
yeah,
need to understand what you're saying is not that important, you know. You're not that important. You need to just, recognize that there might be some things that you don't know and just wait for things to happen, you know.
yes.
So well, yes, and I've seen a lot of that here in the different sectors, especially with Maria Corina Machado. Well, and on with Milei, and I believe they don't see the big picture. I believe they need to get their heads out of their asses. I don't know if that's a thing, but
Yes, yeah. You have to see the big picture. You have to look at a lot of things. It's really politics is very complicated as to how what works, what doesn't work, why it works, when it works, and I mean, Milei has figured something out here that nobody else has really figured out, and I think I hope we can learn something from this because I don't think this is just dumb luck. Although I do wonder if a lot of the personality traits are things that can be taught. You might just have
Mhm.
to go out and try to find a Milei before they're young. You find somebody find a soccer player who's also a lead singer of a Rolling Stone cover band,
Yes.
and there you go. Or maybe just any rock band may do it. But uh,
Yeah, I mean, we need to take advantage of it. I mean, how many times we're gonna have a person like Milei in running a government, whatever country it is. But I mean, it's definitely having a media impact globally because you get Elon Musk getting involved, you get another president involved. I mean,
yeah,
it's come from this country in South America, and it's having such a humongous repercussion around the world. I believe we're
yes.
in a very good moment in history, and I'm very
Well,
glad to be living in it.
after all this, set up the Javier Milei School of Political Persuasion or something like that, and then you end up, and because I mean, there's a whole lot he can do after 8 years. I mean, I think he could really set something up and create and really help this movement just really grow and really take off, and
Yes, yes.
in a
I
way
mean,
make it safe for
also
more.
we need to be aware of the particularities, as I
Yeah,
mentioned, of the Argentinian culture, because
yeah,
I mean, for the not English, not the Spanish speaker, for the non-Spanish speakers, Millet seems like
yes,
if you see the translations, the subtitles, you're like, oh, it's good. But like if you get into what he's actually saying, I don't know, for example, how many chances a candidate for presidency in Argentina, but in Chile, pardon, in United States might have if he calls the other part motherfucker or something like that. So like
yeah. I don't
he
think
says
you'd never say that word on American politics. Yeah, but yeah,
So
it's
here
very
in Chile
interesting.
neither. If you say that like in a speech or something, like this, mama, I don't know
Yeah,
how well received by Viva people, but Argentinian people love that. They're like, yeah, hell yeah,
well,
I agree.
as
That's
one
what
of
I
my
did.
friends, people say they would tune into Milei for the insults, but then they would stay for the wisdom. Uh, you know,
Just,
it's
yeah. So,
yeah, and if
so that's the
I knew the
particularity.
language better, I might be able to appreciate fully what he's doing. It's pretty
Yeah.
remarkable out there. I hope, and obviously, if
Well,
we
we
can say,
gotta stick together. We gotta stick together for it. I mean, it's time to be together. I mean, not to be fighting about, oh, I didn't like that policy. That policy wasn't liberal enough. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? They have people they don't even eat during the day.
yeah, I mean, I look at this whole situation. You had a patient who weighed 450 pounds and had stage 4 cancer. So at least now the patient is maybe weighs about 350 pounds and the cancer is gone. The patient's still not in very good shape, but at least we've made some progress here. So let's keep
Absolutely.
making the progress and hopefully we'll get there. Actually, I don't know if there's anything else we really need to talk about at this point. I think we've covered most of South America. You've certainly been well traveled. You had mentioned a video of you'd mentioned something a video that I hope you never found, but apparently it's not out there. So
No, it's
you
not
know,
out there. No, no, I
you
was
know
thinking about it, but I actually I asked to the people that organized that event, and
yes,
yeah, they didn't find it. They said, I
something
think
else
they
I'm
put it
looking
in
for.
record. Huh?
I'm also looking for. Does anybody out there have any actual footage of Milei with his band?
With his
Like a concert where Milei's singing with his band. And apparently, surely somebody sometime recorded something on a camcorder or something, or a VCR or a phone or whatever.
I think I've seen pictures, but no videos, no
Maybe
footage.
maybe maybe pictures
Mhm.
and no videos, but it would be interesting to see that. I think but maybe not. It's could be though. It's because I don't know when his rock career was over. It's
Yeah.
nowadays everybody would have videos of everything, but
Well,
anyway,
let me finish saying that. Well, I'm very thankful for the interview. But thank you for the space. I'm always glad to speak with you, Chris. And and also, if there's any South Americans or Venezuelans who live in United States that are watching this video, let me tell you guys that we just published the book Ronald Ojeda, which is a book written by a friend of mine, was part of the Chilean Libertarian Party, who got kidnapped, tortured, and killed here in Chile under the supervision of Boric government. He was killed by Maduro's intelligence, and he was writing a book about what he saw. It's a very detailed description about what happening in Venezuela in the army. So, and how it's
yes,
related with the organized crime and government, and how the entire structure works. So
yeah,
it's a very important crime, not just because it tells how Venezuela works, but also because it reveals what is the extent of the influence the Venezuela regime has in the rest of the region. So I
yeah,
invite you, all of you guys, to buy it in Amazon. It's already on it. It's very important because the money is gonna go to his family. He had a little
yeah.
6 years old kid and a wife, and we need to be aware. We need to get conscious of these people that fought against a humongous regime just because it was the right thing to do, and they got killed. They are our heroes.
Is this book only in Spanish?
So far, yes. So far, yes.
Okay, can you spell that title, please?
Yes. I'm gonna do it in the private chat because
Yeah, yeah. I just want to look it up so I can know what it
see,
is. Maybe I'll share it here. Uh,
póstumas
yeah,
de
it's
secuestro.
such a
Yes, I wrote the I wrote the prologue of the book.
Ronald Ojeda.
Yes,
Yes, Ojeda as an OJE de Notas Póstumas de su secuestro y asesinato.
yes,
Let me see here. That looks like posthumous notes of the sequestered and assassinated, I would say, but
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
doing that all in my head. Good for me, but yes.
Well, you've been in Chile. You're
Oh
almost a
yeah.
Spanish speaker.
Chile is the ultimate test of Spanish.
Oh yes,
Oh
we are the
yes.
Scottish people of Spanish.
Oh, I said, I don't know if you saw on my show. I said, you think do the Argentines is it easier for them to understand the Italians than the Chileans? But anyway, how did that happen?
Oh my God, I believe a lot of booze, and and
Yes.
in our, I don't know how to, I don't know how
Yeah.
it happened. To be
Ronaldo
honest,
Ojeda
I don't know why we speak the
Moreno.
way we speak, but we speak like, for people to realize, like to imagine, to picture how we speak Spanish. We're like the Scottish people of Spanish. I always like to put that example. But maybe, yeah, for some people, Scottish people are very easy to understand. To me, it was really hard. I mean, I learned English in Australia. I get used to American English, and well, I can British and stuff. But Irish and Scottish is so hard to understand for me.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, learning in Australia would be interesting. Yeah, some of the Scottish and the Irish. Also, you might have trouble with just some of the New Yorkers
Mm.
here and various
But well,
accents.
we are more like we are more closer to the New Yorkers accents because of American movies. So you get, if you, or music. So if you listen to music, to rap music, hip hop music, or stuff like that, you can understand the slang, the accent. Well, in Chile, we have a lot of slang, a lot. I mean, we cut the words, we speak really fast, and we have a lot of slang, made up words in between that are only ours. So that's why it's so hard to understand this.
Yeah, it's really interesting how languages evolve from one common original. And
Mm,
it's funny too. Just how this country, became its own country. I suppose, just because of the mountains there, you had a natural barrier that this
mm,
was kind of so everybody on the west side of this is in Chile, everybody on the east side because the mountains are just no man's land. You know,
Well,
it's
it is. It does have a cultural effect. A lot of people say that we are not South Americans because we are very different to the rest of the South Americans in terms of our culture. I mean, we are not very loud as the rest of South America. We are not very, joyful people. We are not very like happy and dancing and stuff like that. Chileans don't dance really, and we are not much party. Like our parties are kind of like just meet together in some house and just drink until death. It's
yes,
different to the other ones, that they go to disco and stuff like that. So yes, we are different.
yeah,
We are much more gray country.
and Argentines, they love to dance. It's a
Yeah.
dancing is so much a part of their culture. Yeah, it's really a well, we'll probably all fuse back together at one point. Well, thank you, Italo. It's been great having you on here. Please check out my Substack. Go buy my novel, Escape from the Village. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow all this stuff. And this has been Founded Forum 205. Thank you, Italo. And I think this is the.
Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Chris.
thank you very much, and have a good day. And hopefully, it's. I've found so many excuses to go back to South America. So who knows? It's a
Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah. You
continent.
need to tell me the next time. Well, we go
Yeah,
and have
yeah,
a beer.
yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, Italo, and have a good day.
All
We're
right.
out.